you focus a lot from where you're sitting on artificial intelligence. If you think about the impact AI is having on the world today, where is it most profound and how is it changing things for your clients?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's an auspicious week to be talking about this, given announcements from OpenAI and Google today and Apple, I think, later in the week. So it just depicts the rate of change, and exciting new developments in this industry are remarkable right now. It's hard to keep pace with. And I think equally, it's hard to imagine a sector that's not deeply influenced by this technology. Certainly, in the first instance, knowledge industries like ours are profoundly affected by a technology that can reckon with human language and context and so forth. Like, that's going to be very, very impactful for us. But any industry in which you have people who are trying to synthesize knowledge, create new ideas, and be creative, like, it's going to be impactful.
Where do you think the opportunity is most underappreciated today? You look at AI investors around the world, and they're already looking at semiconductors and data centers, but you're seeing AI impact every industry.
Yep. Well, again, what's interesting about this technology revolution, it's really a full stack revolution. So the paradigm shift in the way that computation is being performed for generative AI workloads, influences everything from the very fundamental layer of the stack of energy and power up through semiconductors, up through networking and computational equipment, through data to the applications themselves. So it's a fascinating time in which every layer of that stack is being profoundly shifted by this technology, and creates enormous opportunity for investors and for companies who are figuring out how to harness this technology to create change and advantage in their business.
George, how is this changing the way you do business inside of Goldman Sachs? Of course, Goldman has been using AI for a long time and has really experimented a lot when it came to emerging technologies. How do you see the difference now when it comes to generative AI and what you can do at Goldman?
Right. As you say, we have a rich history of using technology, computation, and data science to create opportunities and advantage for our clients. And in particular, we've been using AI for many years. This new expression of the long journey of AI, generative AI, is unique because it has this ability to allow us to incorporate new data types, to reason around new data types. And so this potential for I would divide it into two dimensions. One is the advice business. So the ability for our best people to ask and answer questions that have been prohibitively difficult in the past, to come up with more ideas for clients, to test more hypotheses. It's really remarkable. I think it will reduce the cycle time from idea to transaction. Now, we're also in a business where there's a lot of operational intensity. And a lot of the operational intensity in our business has to do with documents and human language. So the potential to use this technology to bring more scale and efficiency to those operational flows, I think, is very significant. Third would be risk management. The ability to capture the parallelized intelligence of these machines to evaluate a broader range of risk scenarios, to be smarter about how we help clients manage risk, transmute risk. I think that's a phenomenal area of opportunity. And then finally, not really frontal for us, but important for the industry at large, is customer care and touching retail customers and speeding the time to resolution of their questions. I think that's an area where it's going to be a big impact. So it's hard to pick a spot where it's not going to be impactful to our industry. At the same time, we're a regulated financial institution. We think we have a lot of urgency because we think there's a lot of value here, but we have to be very thoughtful, careful, and deliberate about how we work with our regulators and risk managers and compliance folks to make sure we do this right.
I do want to ask you about the limitations, but first I want to ask more about the opportunity. You kind of outlined the ways that you can make ideas to transactions happen in a faster way. In some ways, it sounds like AI can be a banker's best friend.
It's a great way of thinking about it. I talk about that a lot as saying, like, imagine having an always on, infinitely patient, widely knowledgeable companion, thought partner, PhD level assistant at your beck and call. And that ability to use that platform as a thought partner to, again, try to solve clients' problems in a more inventive way, to apply more creativity, I think it's going to be extremely impactful and valuable for clients.
M&A was your old business. Does it really change the way you think about the potential for M&A moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, one of the paradigms we talk a lot about is, one of the iconic moments in investment banking is you've got a client problem or you've got a negotiation going on between two parties. You pull your team, you convene your team around a conference table, you're coming up with new ideas, you're sending people off to do research about the potential of certain ideas. All of a sudden, all of that can kind of be done by that same group of people, but leveraging a technology that allows you to answer those questions very quickly with high authority, et cetera. So again, this technology is early. There are a lot of limitations we'll get to. So for all of these workloads and experiments I'm talking about, we are very strict about human in the loop and nothing directly customer facing as of yet.
So if you do see a future where AI could play a bigger role, there is kind of the elephant in the room here, where a lot of bankers are worried, a lot of traders are worried that AI will take their jobs at the end of the day. At what point does it have an impact on people's jobs?
Yeah. In the first instance, our belief is that the greatest potential of this technology is to elevate and augment the creativity and impact of our best people. As I mentioned, kind of senior people, more ideas, more solutions for clients, more engagement. Our junior people, relieving some of the low-value, redundant, repetitive tasks that they have to do, allowing us to exploit and take advantage of all the great IP of the wonderful people we hire from universities around the world. So in the first instance, we believe this is about taking our current set of resources and just allowing them to do a lot more, better, faster, smarter. Over time, of course, in any of these phenomena, the history of technology suggests some jobs will get abstracted away, and yet new jobs, new functions, new opportunities will emerge that you can't imagine today. And this is one of the really cool and inspiring things about this technology. We have to remind ourselves we're basically 2 to 3 years into the public-facing dimension of this platform shift. And we're beginning to discover really valuable use cases. Obviously, the most mature around the world is helping coders be more efficient in writing code. But there's a whole undiscovered country of new applications, ways to harness this technology that haven't emerged yet. As they do, it's going to displace some jobs. It's going to create enormous opportunity and economic growth.
So what are the skills of the future? Is Goldman thinking differently about the types of people that you bring into the bank, into financial services more largely, given that there are new tools you need to succeed?
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic. And as you know, I was co-chief information officer of the firm for 4 or 5 years. I have deep respect for technical talent, technical capabilities. I think there will always be a place in our business for extremely technical folks. At the same time, this revolution, I've often called it the revenge of the liberal arts. So some of the skills that are really salient to cooperate with this new form of intelligence in the world are critical thinking, understanding logic and rhetoric, the ability to be creative with these technologies. And so I think it will allow non-technical people to accomplish a lot more. And by the way, begin to perform what were formerly believed to be technical tasks and jobs. At the same time, I think both domains will grow a lot. One of the things I also spend a lot of time thinking about the impact of this technology on the educational world. And so when I think about what's the optimal mix of educational experiences for this new era, I think it's understanding math. These machines run on linear algebra and matrix multiplication. It's understanding probability. They're essentially probability machines at scale, understanding conditional probability. Third is principles of computation, at the very least, understanding how machines work, how computers work and talk. And then finally, a great liberal arts domain like philosophy, history, sociology, again, that ability to interpret the results coming back from these machines, think critically about them, evaluate them, and then elevate those ideas into more magical thinking.
Finally, what are the limitations? You started to hint at them. It seems like there are plenty. How does that play out?
Yeah, look, again, I think we have to remind ourselves this is a novel technology. It's playing out very fast in the public eye. It is unlike any other traditional form of computation in a way in that we're used to very deterministic forms of computation. given an input, you build a scaffolding of if-then logic to produce a provably correct output. This is given an input, something mysterious happens inside the corpus of a neural network, and what comes out is something emergent, unpredictable, sometimes startling. And so, that comes with both extraordinary benefits in terms of the creative dimensions of this technology and the human dimensions of the technology. It also leads to things like hallucination, confabulation. There are areas in which the technology is more effective. There have been enormous progress recently in math and science areas that had been harder for these algorithms historically. So I think that, yes, there are a lot of limitations, there are a lot of concerns, there are a lot of risks we should be extremely mindful of. Hence, that's why we're, human in the loop, nothing directly customer facing, but nonetheless, the impact on those workflows that we can advance with this technology, I think, will be just very profound.